Hi, this is Jeanette.
And Zeke.
Welcome to
Oh-My-Geekers.
This week we're going to be starting a series on the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Bonhoeffer was a German theologian who opposed the Nazi ideology of Adolf Hitler and became a martyr for Christianity.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German pastor and theologian. If you don't know what a theologian is, it's a person who studies God's Word.
Dietrich was most known for his opposition to Nazism, most likely known as National Socialism.
Yeah, Zeke, can you tell me a little bit about National Socialism?
Well, Nazism, or National Socialism, is a form of socialism where the wealth is redistributed, sort of like communism, except in this case, this sort of society requires that you have an unhealthy pride for your country and exalt it above other countries, and you even exalt your race above other races.
And so Dietrich was one of the only ones that pretty much knew that this ideology was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so Dietrich and some of his family members were involved in a conspiracy to overthrow the Nazi regime, and this ultimately led to his execution in 1945.
Yeah, he was actually involved in a sort of a plot to kill Hitler. It didn't work, and he was actually hung, and it wasn't a quick death. They actually made it to where it would be drug out, so he was hanging with a wire around his neck, and he was just like there.
For how long do you think he was there?
I have no idea, but
It was a slow death.
it was a slow death.
Oh, that's so demonic. Well, his theological writings are regarded as classics throughout the Christian world. He was born in Breslau, is that how it
Breslau.
Germany in 1906, and he had a strong desire to study theology at age 14.
Which actually surprised his whole family, who were not really even churchgoers.
Yeah, I know that he also had a very strong interest in music, right?
Yeah. His love for theology probably came because World War I had come, and his older brother went off to fight in World War I, but immediately his brother died within the first few weeks of the war.
Oh, that's sad. Wow. Well, he graduated from college with a doctorate in theology, and he went to college in Berlin, actually the capital of Germany, and that was a very highly prestigious school with a lot of very crazy intellectual people. So one of the interesting things that I really like about Dietrich is that he traveled to America, and it really changed his outlook on theology. It changed his outlook from an academic standpoint to a practical, more perspective. And Zeke, can you tell me like what brought him to that?
Well, he was at a seminary there in New York. He didn't really like the teacher there, but he developed a friendship with a student there, and that student was one of the few black students to actually be at seminary. And that black student invited Dietrich to his church in Harlem. It was a Baptist church. And there, Dietrich saw the black congregation having this great intense love for the Lord and singing these beautiful hymns, and he basically thought about how Christianity should be a outward personal expression of faith rather than a inward intellectual sort of abstract form of faith.
So he pretty much experienced the gospel in a Black Baptist church in Harlem, which made him aware of racial injustice, because during that time there was a lot of racial injustice in America. And that prepared him to speak out against the ideologies of Hitler's belief in a master race. Um, that's a very, in my opinion, that's an ordained part of his life.
He then returned to Germany and was ordained as a pastor in the evangelical church. He was a Lutheran, but evangelical churches can go throughout denominations. It's just a Christian school of thought.
Well, he was definitely a firm opponent of Hitler's ideology, and Bonhoeffer had a very controversial radio broadcast.
Yes, he challenged the idea of what a Führer was.
A what?
A Führer. That's basically what they called, it was part of the master, the chancellor, and he was basically trying to get people to think about, are we exalting this man to the level of a god? And even in between his radio, the government actually sort of cut him off.
Bonhoeffer helps form the Confessing Church, which sought to separate Protestant churches from Nazi ideology. That really interests me because he's basically, creating a subdivision, right?
Subdivision. It was because at that time Hitler enacted laws. I think it was the Aryan something. I forgot what the Aryan paragraph. And basically Aryan is sort of this term of this Indic people that traveled to the Caucasus Mountains, and basically they became the German people. And he basically elevated this race above all other races, and he put down all other races, especially the Jewish people, and he basically said to boycott Jewish stores. And also he tried to pressure the churches to sort of change their view of theology, making salvation and baptism and communion inaccessible towards the Jewish people.
And probably other races.
Yes, and other races too, such as the Gypsy people. And yeah, we'll have to talk about the Gypsy people at another podcast.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
That will be interesting.
Yeah. Bonhoeffer was considered a pacifist at first. He was not...
For most of his life, he was a pacifist.
What is a pacifist? Can you explain what a pacifist is?
Pacifist is someone who does not believe in violence and killing.
Yeah, they're not even one that really likes to get into politics. They'd like to kind of keep, out of that, and the separation of church and state.
Not really.
No?
It's more of not like that. That's sort of just pacifism in its basic fundamental sense is not fighting or killing. It's not really cowering.
I'm sure a lot of kids nowadays believe in pacifism. I don't know if they believe in pacifism, but they definitely are afraid to stand up for their country. I could tell you that.
Tyranny.
Tyranny. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't discard pacifism. Uh, there there are Bible verses that can support and not support. Bonhoeffer was a pacifist throughout most of his life. He only started to get into this plot to assassinate Hitler towards the later years of his life. Before that, he actually went to India to learn
Under Gandhi, right?
under Gandhi. Not really theology or anything, but more of
Ethical. Yeah.
more of ethics of
Mm-hmm.
pacifism, because Gandhi was like an expert at that. Gandhi liked what Jesus said about turning the other cheek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
Yeah.
studied the Sermon on the Mount
He did.
very closely.
Yeah, Bonhoeffer and also Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gandhi basically won independence for India from Britain ju- by not even using violence.
Mm-hmm.
The people just did not do violence, and when the British cut off their food supply, they still sort of pacifist, even though they were breaking certain laws and stuff and
Mm-hmm.
protesting, and the British government couldn't really handle it. They couldn't do anything because all they would do is kill off the population, and they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
do that. That was unethical. So uh, India won its independence through that, but that couldn't work with Hitler. So Bonhoeffer just had this drastic decision in his life where he had to like go against what he had always thought to be true,
Mm-hmm.
because he couldn't allow this evil to persist.
Yeah, and he has a book
It's called Ethics.
yes, on ethics, and I would love to read that. Well, we're going to end up and wrap up here now, but next week we're going to talk about Bonhoeffer and his life in prison, and
The plot to kill Hitler and him smuggling Jews out.
and a few other things. So stay tuned for next week's episode on part 2 of Bonhoeffer. We'll see you next time on
Oh My
Geekers.